Welcome to this webinar. My name is Hannah Delmott, and I'm the Director of Partnership Development here at Concordia. It's wonderful to have so many industry and policy leaders joining us today for this very timely conversation. I'd like to thank Renee and the team at the Africa Export-Import Bank for partnering with Concordia for this webinar, as well as Vivian for her unwavering support and insight into the design of Concordia Africa. She's been a real champion of this programming for us. Before we get started and turn to Renee, I want to take a moment to ground this discussion in Concordia's mission on strengthening and supporting the partnering ecosystem. Now is a critical time for cross-sector collaboration, public-private partnerships, and a unified world. And that's why Concordia is reaffirming its unwavering commitment to maintaining its position as the leading nonpartisan organization alongside the UN General Assembly and bringing together voices around the world across the time. And while the unprecedented nature of the virus is calling for a temporary increase in physical distance, it doesn't mean we can't still come together. This virtual discussion on the role of partnerships on the front lines of the global response to the pandemic is designed for the Concordia member community, especially those building partnership-based interventions to support local, national, and global health and economic responses in the wake of COVID-19. Concordia's Department of Partnership Development is ready to support the formation and structure of new and global initiatives, contributing to the response through impactful and transformational partnerships. I encourage you to connect directly with me during or after this call if you think Concordia can support your work in this space. Concordia is a member-based organization. If you were invited to this program by Concordia or the Afreximbank due to the relevancy of this work, welcome. It's wonderful to have you, and I encourage you to consider Concordia membership and be part of this global partnership-based transformation. My colleague, Maddie Garnett, is currently on the line, and you can send her a private chat or reach out to her after this event to learn more about membership. Community lies at the heart of all we do. As we navigate this complex and tumultuous time together, we're focusing on what we do best, building strong networks, bridging partnerships for social impact, and fostering a community to better the world. Well, it feels at times like life has been put on hold. At Concordia, we're doing everything we possibly can to strengthen our community and double down on our values of collaboration, partnership, and unity. A small housekeeping note, in the chat feature for those of you joining online, you can see some Zoom housekeeping tips. I'll state them here verbally as well for everyone on the phone. First, all attendees are automatically muted upon entry. To ask a question during the Q&A at the end, please raise your hand and Concordia will unmute you. We do want to engage. Using the Q&A feature to ask questions or to upvote those submitted by your colleagues will be the best way. So at the bottom of your screen, there is a Q&A feature. You can submit your question, you can upvote what other people have suggested. And again, if you want to verbally ask that question yourself, we welcome that. Just let us know. We will be monitoring the chat feature, and so we just keep this as a constant conversation. We know with virtual it can be a bit tricky, but again, we want to be hearing from you. This webinar will be recorded and it's accessible via the Concordia website for future viewing. The Q&A aspect of today's conversation will not be recorded for future use. It's purely a benefit for our members who are joining today. So any of the insights that come from that special piece of the conversation, that's just for today's audience. Moving into today's important topic, we are joined by Renee Awambeng, who's the Global Head of Client Relations at the Afreximbank. Renee joined the bank in 2016 as the Director of Client Relations, following several years with EcoBank in various roles and geographies. He's a regular commentator on current trends in commodity trade finance, regional business, African trade, and infrastructure development at international banking conferences and seminars, and now webinars in this new normal that we're all part of. Featured as a Forbes One to Watch and on the 2016 New African Women magazine's 30 Under 30 Faces Changing Africa Now list, Vivian is a respected speaker who often speaks on global education, gender equality, youth empowerment, and international development, and she brings to this discussion her deep interest in redefining Africa's growth and development. As of today, there are over 2.5 million COVID-19 cases globally, which we know could be much higher due to uneven testing capabilities around the world. Remarkably, Africa as a continent has the fewest number of cases, a scenario we would all like to see continued. At the same time, COVID disruption risks devastating national and regional economies. Today, we're going to hear about the role of Afrexim in staving off that possibility and some prognostics for the African economy in the near and long term. I'm happy to turn it over to Renee now, who will present a bit on what Afrexim is doing in this space with regard to a particularly new fund. And then we'll go into an interview led by Vivian and then into a Q&A.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Apologies. This is Renee Wambeng here. Welcome to this webinar hosted by the African Export-Import Bank and Concordia on our pandemic trade impact mitigation facility, which we call PATIMFA. The chairman of the board of directors, Professor Rama, announced this 3 billion PATIMFA facility to help African countries to mitigate the impact of the health impact of COVID-19 pandemic. The facility was approved by the board of directors in March, and we are seeking to provide assistance to Afreximbank member countries to adjust in an orderly manner to financial, economic, and health services shocks caused by the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic. The pandemic is deadly and a highly infectious disease, affecting and spreading through virtually every country in the world. And just after a few brief months, it appeared it has had a truly devastating effect on people, businesses, and economies everywhere. Billions of dollars are being spent on health and economic support globally. The world is currently at the moment in history when cooperation and collaboration is needed more than ever and applies regardless of communities, country, region, or continent. Economically, governments and central banks have reduced the reference rates and flexed their muscles, their fiscal and monetary levels to unprecedented levels, which will make the actions following the 2007 and 2008 financial crisis seem a little bit small. It is for this reason that the bank approved this facility to be able to support sectors that are going to be highly hit. We've seen in the oil and gas sector, the commodity sector, tourism, airlines, domestic production, and also food security in Africa. The worst hit sectors in terms of economic dislocation, various sectors have been affected by the pandemic. As a result of this, African economies are exposed to serious vulnerability, and some are already finding themselves in financial difficulties. Demand is falling across virtually every sector. Commodity prices on which many African economies are relying are plummeting. We've seen a fall of more than 100% in oil and gas in the last 4 months to its lowest levels in 3 years. Industrial metals have fallen by almost 11%. COVID has also resulted in a dramatic decline in tourism and the airline industry in Africa. Tourism revenue in some places, you understand, is less than 3%. It is difficult to see many bright spots as production dwindles and supply chains are disrupted in almost every sector. In addition to the health emergency, there's also a threat on food security across Africa. Africa's finance and revenues are under stress. It is not just commodity prices and demand that is tumbling. The currencies of African countries are weakening, meaning that they can't afford vital imports. Fiscal challenges are rising for very sharp drops in fiscal revenues for government, depending on mineral royalties and other tariff revenues. This will make it difficult for such economies to meet debt service obligations to bondholders and meet their budget expectations. If there are any trade defaults, the economic yields will dramatically multiply, and should this result in credit lines cut by international banks. There are cuts in foreign direct investment, long-term financing plans, and portfolio flows coming into the continent. This is reducing funding, and so our necessary major planned infrastructure and natural resources projects are also going to be delayed. There is evidence of capital flight, and also the realization of imperatives, or the realization of these imperatives has led us to put in place the pandemic trade impact mitigation facility as Afreximbank's contribution towards mitigating these challenges. Afreximbank is working with multilateral development banks that have put in place financial assistance programs in order to secure support to help African countries deal with the adverse external shocks and crises arising from COVID-19 pandemic. We have already seen a sharp pandemic-induced decline in commodity prices, a sudden significant drop in tourism earnings, disruptions in supply chains, and closure of export manufacturing facilities. The impact on medical supplies and medical systems in many markets has also been unprecedented. This is why the Afreximbank Pandemic Trade Impact Mitigation Facility is very important, welcome, and necessary. This program is designed to assist the bank's members in managing the adverse impact of financial and economic health shocks caused by pandemics and pandemics in the nature of COVID-19. Afreximbank has a proud track record of providing support to African economies in times of economic crisis. During the 2015 economic crisis, we introduced a counter-cyclical trade liquidity facility under which we disbursed more than $10 billion on a revolving basis to enable member countries to adjust to the adverse economic shocks. The facility helped key African economies to manage the crisis and recover swiftly. The impacts of COVID-19 may be directly caused by pandemic-induced sharp declines in commodity prices, sudden significant drop in tourism earnings, disruptions in supply chains, and export manufacturing. So the specific objectives of PATINFA, this product will be to support central banks, financial institutions, and of the affected member countries to enable them meet trade debt payments falling due and avert trade payment defaults. The facility may also be able to support stabilized foreign exchange reserves for member countries, central banks, and enable them to support trade under emergency conditions. PATINFA can also provide rapid bridging finance opportunities to sovereigns eligible for large pandemic support intervention and other multilateral development financial institutions. It will assist member countries whose fiscal revenues are tied to specific export revenues, enabling them to engage in and manage sudden fiscal revenue declines as a result of their lower export earnings. It can also provide emergency trade finance facilities that are necessary for the importation of urgently needed medicine, medical equipment, and hospital fittings required for African health systems to strengthen diagnostics and testing capacities and action other measures necessary to help combat the COVID pandemic. PATINFA will also support eligible corporates whose exports, planned investments, and supply chains may be disrupted so that they are able to have much needed liquidity and operate and meet their critical obligations. It is necessary to set some rules to which countries can access the PATINFA facilities. The facility is intended to assist our member countries, which today are 51 African countries that are affected by the pandemic and suffering from a significant drop in tourism revenue as a result of the sharp decline in tourist arrivals, a sudden decline in export demand. The decline in export earnings may be related to a shutdown of export markets or sharp price decline, disruptions in supply chains, and disruptions in domestic production. Experiencing significant declines in financial flows, for example, this may include trade finance project finance, migrant remittances, and other tourism-related foreign currency flows. The eligible beneficiaries for support under this program are government, central banks, commercial banks, national and sub-regional development banks, and corporates. Eligible currencies could be local African currencies, US dollar or euro. There are various sources of repayment, which include receivables, cash collateral accounts, payments from beneficiaries, or assignment of proceeds. It's a commercial facility and it's available for a period of 3 years. Disbursement for funded transactions under PATINFA can either be a bullet or revolving basis, or they could be availed through one or single multiple utilizations. Afreximbank is happy to receive applications for this facility to the bank to see how the bank can help support member countries. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. I appreciate the challenges of presenting over WhatsApp, and hope that we can seamlessly move into a conversation between Vivian and Renee to unpack this a little bit further. Vivian, do you want to kick us off with some questions?
Thank you so much, Mr. Rene Awambeng, for the wonderful presentation. We totally understand the technical challenges we all face it right now. It's become sort of like a norm. And I totally agree with you. In your opening, you said that this is a time for collaboration and cooperation because, as we all know, this virus knows no borders, and viruses in the past have known no borders. So it's time for us to all come together, regardless of political backgrounds, economic backgrounds, come together and figure out the best way that we can tackle this pandemic that we're currently facing. So to Renee, you've spoken about the perceived greatest risk to Africa's economy due to COVID-19. And also you've talked about one of your partners in the Pandemic Trade Impact Mitigation Facility at the MDBs. So who are some of your key partners apart from the MDBs that you already have on the board for the implementation of this facility?
Thank you, Vivian. We are working with several development partners at several levels. So it's a collaborative partnership. Yesterday, we just approved a collaborative program called COFEMPA. We did that with BADEA, ITF, the International Trade Finance Corporation, and Afreximbank. So that is one level of a partnership. We're also working with other MDBs. We're working with the CDC Group. We're working with the African Development Bank. We're working with other multilateral partners to see how we can support in co-financing the requirements of the African member states.
Fantastic. So, and how are you working with the national banks and multilateral institutions? What kind of communication channels do you have in place, and what are the dynamics of the relationships too?
So with the multilaterals, some of them are going to provide us with funding. Some of them are going to provide us with credit enhancement. So, for example, we commence negotiations with NIGA for credit enhancement to be able to support participating member states and financial institutions to be able to deliver this product. Some of them are going to be funding directly with us. Some of the borrowers under the product. In terms of the national banks, we have had engagements with a number of central banks across the continent to be able to identify their needs and their responses. We are entering into cross-currency swaps with some of the central banks where they provide us local currency and we provide them the hard foreign currency they require at this time to be able to make imports of strategic goods and products necessary to respond to the COVID.
Okay, fantastic. So Afreximbank has a history of providing support to African economies during crises. So how are you applying your past experience working with these partners towards this initiative, and where does the COVID-19 context require shifts in procedure?
I think that over the years, the bank has learned how to respond to crises on the continent. The executive management of the bank quickly put in place a number of measures to respond to the crisis, which included liquidity management. It included managing the quality of the existing assets and also dealing with the requirements of our member countries. This is why we set up this product, which has been very successful. So far, we have received requests from over 40 African countries, more than 30 financial institutions.
Well, apologies, it looks like there was another glitch with Cairo's website, so we cut off. We'll wait to see if here we go. All right, Renee?
Yeah, I think I lost you there. I said, yep. So far we've received a request. We are dealing with requests from several categories of clients, governments and central banks. We're speaking to more than 40 of them at the moment. Financial institutions across the continent, about 30 financial institutions where we are providing, trying to provide support. We have seen demand in excess of $10 billion for this facility. And we learned, as I mentioned, we learned a lot from the previous crisis where we put in place the countercyclical and trade finance facility.
And so specifically to COVID-19, what is different in the way that you're working with your partners compared to the previous crisis?
Well, this crisis is a lot different to the financial crisis of 2008 because, first of all, there is a global lockdown and immobility. The way we have to address it is quite different. The scale and nature of this crisis has been unprecedented. It's a health crisis. Every country in the world has been affected. Global markets have been affected. Our response has been swift. We have very swift engagements with the key stakeholders. We are working with the African Union. We are working with UNECA. We are working with Africa CDC to see how we can shape policy, how we can shape financial support. We're working with the African private sector to see how we can identify issues around logistics, raising additional funds to be able to resolve the issue of COVID-19 across the continent.
Thank you so much. And if I may ask, so how can indirect partners in the health and economic spaces leverage this financing facility?
Yeah, any borrower who intends to benefit from the program should actually send us an email or ring us to apply. We have a team looking at our request, and we can deal on a case-by-case basis on each requirement. I think if you go to our website, you will see some information about the product, and you can also see our contact details.
Okay, fantastic. And regarding your partnership, are there differences between how Afreximbank is defining success and how its partners might be? And how is the bank working to resolve that, if there is any difference?
No, there has been tremendous support from all partners in trying to provide support to resolve this problem. Whether it's financial, whether it's policy, I think the response has been tremendous from the private sector, from multilateral organizations, and from the African Union. So we are working together. It's a very collaborative effort. We have different work streams in the bank, dealing with various parts of these various stakeholders to see how we can provide our support.
Okay, fantastic.
At this time, we're excited to go into a Q&A with all of our listeners right now. So if you do have a question you wish to ask, kindly use the Q&A feature at the bottom of the screen or top, and we'll make sure that that's asked. Before we go into the one that's been asked or been presented, I'm going to take a bit of authority here. I'd love to dive a bit deeper into Renee. You mentioned that 40 countries and 30 corporations have taken advantage so far of the facility and reached out to work through this. Is this the response you've expected? Do you expect more feedback? And how are you working with potential partners to help them navigate and take advantage of this facility?
Thank you. The response has been overwhelming. We have seen a significant surge in demand for this product across various segments, be they corporates, be they financial institutions or sovereigns across the continent. The response has been overwhelming. As I did mention, the board approved $3 billion, but we have seen demand in excess of $11-12 billion today. We are working with our partners to try to prioritize the most hard-hit countries where we can dedicate this support and go through the process of approving these facilities to these various countries.
In that prioritization strategy, is there an effort to apply holistic grants into a few key countries, or is it about distribution and disbursement across the widest range possible? What's guiding your thoughts there?
The prioritization is based on existing relationships that we have with our participating member states. It's also based on the flexibility to accept the terms and conditions of the facility. It's also based on the requirements, given how hard hit some of these countries may be. So we are looking at all those factors